Okay, we're just going to talk about the basic proportions of the face, and we're going to go into more detail in this unit, but I wanted to cover a couple tricks that help for when you're beginning. So you're going to start out with the oval, and it doesn't have to be the exact shape of the head, meaning the jawline might be different of the person you're trying to draw. And what you want to start with, and you want to draw light, I'm going to draw dark so that you can see on the video, but about halfway down is going to be where your eyes are, and then you divide this from the chin to the eyes about halfway, and that's going to be your nose, and then again halfway roughly is the mouth, and I seem to always have to elongate that chin later, but that gives you an idea. So with the eyes, there's a little rule of thumb where you want the width of each eye to have the space in between the eyes that width as well, so it's like you have a third ghost eye in the middle. So I'm just going to draw an almond shape for the eyes, and you want to get those as close as you can in width and height. And then if you drop down where the tear duct area is, that should be the width of the nose. Now I never like when people draw noses with the lines coming down, but we're just looking at the edge of the nostrils there. Okay, and let's just make this guy look a little less freaky here. We've got the iris. I'm going to drop down the eyelid so we don't look too surprised. Okay, and then we have our pupil, and I can tell my eye on the right is a little bit smaller, so we're going to adjust that. Okay, and we're just going to give the little bit of a shape of the nose. Okay, that's just the idea that there's a nose. Now, I'm going to look at this now and notice that I'm coming in sharp on my right jaw and it's rounded over here, so I can try and match that a little bit better. It's as if this poor kid had a wisdom tooth out on one side, not the other. Okay, now the mouth, you really want to look, each person's different, but the distance between the nose and the top of the lip, okay, is about here, so the line I drew would be the bottom of that top lip. Now this is kind of another trick that, again, a lot of these proportions change based on the person, but if I drop, general rule of thumb, if I drop from the pupil down, that's going to be the edge of my mouth. I'm just going to drop a little bit of a bottom lip here. Okay, and now I want to look at eyebrows. So usually our eyebrows slant in just a little bit from that tear duct and then from the side of the eye out, and if you'll notice my width here is much wider than here, so I can bring that in or widen that side out and fix that. On the eyebrow, this depends on the person again, but the distance here to try and match, and if you're looking at yourself or a picture, again, this is just an exercise of proportion, so we're not worried if it looks like you. We're just worried if it looks human. Okay, so I jotted in some eyebrows, and my hairline never would start here. I would look bald and weird. So your hairline's going to drop, and usually it drops down here a bit. If you end it up here, it tends to read as bald. You have a little bit of hair that comes down in front of that ear. Now, let's talk about hair on top of the head. It never really sucks down usually unless you plaster your hair down. So I like to lift it off the head just a bit. Okay, and this could be male or female. And then we're going to look at the ears. So the ears are in between. This really varies for people. So the bottom of the nose to the top of the eyebrow, usually mid-socket. And so we're just going to jet our ears here and drop it down about here. The thing about it is we just want it to give the idea that there's ears coming off the side of the head. If we jet them out too far, they poke out too much. And so I just, especially for this exercise, we're not trying to mimic an actual person. And notice how everything I started with, I didn't start with detail. I just gave myself little dots, little marks to reference those proportions. Okay, now we're going to bring this hair, again it's not sucked tight to the head, and let's bring in our neck. Now a lot of times you'll see a thin neck. This is not proportionate. This looks nice if you're doing like a cartoon or an animated character. Usually your neck comes down from your jaw. The neck can be tricky because if you draw it too thick, we look like a really strong football player. If you draw it too thin, like I said, we run into that cartoon character. So in between the ear and this jawline, you have just this fine line that you want to stay within. And then maybe you could practice swooping the neck out slightly. I actually think that looks a little thick for my liking. And then let's just try and give the reference of clothing. So I'll see this often where you have it, the shoulders start, right? We've got this neck into the shoulders. We don't want to square it up ever, okay? So we want to swoop it down slightly. We wouldn't bring it back up for the shoulders. And then the clothes don't stick tight. It's not like this suction shirt, right? So it's going to come off just like your hair off of the body. And that's a good thing to just practice. Okay, there you go.